Coaching the Fight here. Just want to show you something I saw that was really, really interesting. Coming from a website called jewfact.org. It's a website that gives or lists all of the 613 different laws that comes out of the Torah or out of the first books of the Bible. Remember that Torah means instructions. So these are the first the 613 different laws that are given in the instructions. Which I'll give you a link down in the description so you can see that website. But it's the way that website is organized is kind of organized in different groups, right? Let me show you. So what I did was I went in and I got the information from that website and I put it over here in this Excel spreadsheet so that I can see each one of these 613 different rules over here. Now, the thing about that website is it categorizes them in different groups. Like the first group is the father and how we're supposed to treat the father or what are our actions associated with the father. And then it lists the looks like 10 or 9 or 10 different rules that they've gathered throughout the Torah that talked about how we're supposed to do this. And you see that comes out of Leviticus, it comes out of Deuteronomy, and some comes out of Exodus. So my point is that they're kind of scattered. When you go down through these, the next one is the Torah, which is the instructions, and it tells you how we're supposed to do with the instructions. Um, 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 The next one is symbols, signs and symbols, and how we're supposed to do signs and symbols and such. Those that um, know about the tzitzits or tassels that people wear, you can read that there to put tzitzits or in the corners of the clothing. And then it gives like the verse that it's talking about. That's Numbers 15 and 38. And so that's the way it does all the way down through here. But what I did was, in order to get some clarification on these, because I wanted to know, okay, where are these laws coming from? I went and I sorted them. When you take them and you sort them by the book, now instead of sorting them in the order that they had them over here by these numbers right in here, I have them sorted by the book and the verse that they come out of. Now watch what happens. Coming up here at the top, because it's an alphabetical order, it lists Deuteronomy first, which we know Deuteronomy is the fifth book of the Torah or the last book of the Torah. But look how many rules come out of the last book of the Torah. All of these that you're looking at are coming out of the book of Deuteronomy. Okay, now right in here, we start to get the laws coming out of Exodus, and which is the second book. Again, it's in alphabetical order that these laws are coming out of Exodus. So look right here in Genesis, which is the first book of the Bible or the first book of the Torah. There's only 3 laws that you get out of the book of Genesis. Only 3 laws that you get out of the book of Genesis. So, like I was saying in another video, in the book of Genesis, you're getting the history of the world, the history of mankind, all the way up until the time when they were led into Egypt. You don't really get any laws except for the first law, which is to be fruitful and multiply. That's the first law in the Bible, to be fruitful and multiply. Then you get this law that Abraham got, where it was to circumcise the offspring. That's why people still get circumcised today. And then you have this one over here, which is not to eat of the thigh veins with strength. That's talking about Jacob over there and when he was fighting with the angel, and the angel touched his thigh and all of that. And so it was kind of a rule that came out of it. But you can read that over there in Genesis chapter 32 and 33. But my point is that we didn't get any rules, we didn't get any laws. If you put these in order by way of the book, you would have you would have these 3 laws in the book of Genesis, and then you would jump over to Exodus. You jump over to Exodus, and you don't start getting any more laws until you get up to the chapter 12 of the book of Exodus, and you get quite a few laws coming out of the chapter 12 and chapter 13 out of the book of Exodus. All right, now this right here, this is a pictorial diagram of the book of Exodus. Let me blow it up so you can see where this information is coming from. All right, this is coming out of Clarence Larkin's book, The Dispensational Truth. And he does a lot of these charts, breaking down these books. He broke down Revelations or drew out Revelations. He drew out Genesis and he drew out these other books. But I want to show you over here and how this story, see how he's even drawn a map of how they went through the wilderness and all of that. So it's real interesting to follow or use this book when you actually read in the book of Exodus. And I would suggest you play it on audio, get the audio version. You can do that over on YouTube. Just look for the word dramatized. It sounds really good. And you can follow along using this pictorial diagram. But let me show you this right here because we're talking about chapter 12. This is how it played out in the book of Exodus. You have Israel over here in bondage. Then you have it says the contest with Pharaoh. That's where Moses and Pharaoh were going head to head. And the father or Moses was bringing down all of these plagues and stuff on Pharaoh's head. And then and that goes all the way up to chapter 12. And so you really, and right here, he said that goes up to chapter 12, verse 30. And then over here in chapter 12, verse 31 is when they actually start to get out. They actually leave and are gone out of Egypt and are put into the wilderness. They don't get to the wilderness until chapter 12 over here. They start to get laws right here in chapter 12, verse 10. Let's go back and look at our diagram right quick and see what that is. That's chapter 10 right there. And so since this starts over here in chapter 12 over here, I will assume that this part right here is chapter 12, where it starts with Passover. So they actually start to get rules other than those three that we got in the book of Genesis. The children of Israel start to get rules when they start to move over here by Passover. Now let's see what some of these rules are. Yep, there's Passover right there. Push up, there's Passover. So these are the first rules that they actually start to get in the whole Bible. I will argue again that, you have those first three rules over there. One was given to Adam, told him to be fruitful and multiply. Another one was given to Abraham, where it told him to circumcise. And then you have that obscure rule over there that was given to Jacob, talking about his hip. We have to go look at what that was again. But those were only the 2 or 3 rules that were given over there in the book of Genesis. And you don't get any more rules until you get into Passover, where the death angel is about to come and kill off all of the firstborn males in a whole land of Egypt. Yeah, I would be glad there would be some rules associated with that. I wouldn't want to lose my own son. And that's what these rules are associated with Passover and how to prevent those firstborn children from actually being killed. And so we hear about those rules all the way through chapter 13. Right here, we're still 1, 2, 3 is still talking about Passover and all of these. So all of these are pretty much Passover rules that we hear about over here until we get to, there's one that's stuck off in chapter 16. It says not to travel on the Sabbath outside of the limits of one place of residence. That's one rule in chapter 16, but we really don't get to the Torah. We really don't get to the instructions. We really don't get to the book of the covenant or the main part of the Bible that they call the law until we get to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, and we get the 10 commandments, and see how from then on we start to get rule after rule after rule after rule. Then you get all of these rules down here in Exodus, and then you have all of these rules down here in Leviticus. But my point is, guys, in Leviticus is the book that was really written for the Levites or the priests. So that's a different kind of book. It does have some, I mean, you should understand those laws and all of that. It just goes into a lot more detail into the laws because, again, it is kind of for the priests and for the Levites and those who are tasked with being our ministers. All right, guys. So I just wanted to give y'all that little blurb on the law. We are trying to get back in the law over here in Hermas Academy. We do want to inherit the earth, so we want to get our oil in our lamps, and this is our oil over here. This is how we're going to keep our lamp lit. So we want to pay close attention to this stuff. All right, so if you got something out of it, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're one of those who disagree with the law, you're still a holdout saying that we ain't supposed to be keeping the law, go ahead and hit the dislike button if you want to. Go leave a comment either way, and shalom.